Welcome everybody. As I mentioned earlier, I'd like to mute everybody at this time, and then to prevent background noise, and then if you have something to say, just unmute yourself. And this is an open meeting, so the little bit of housekeeping: the restrooms are just down the hall, so you can excuse yourself anytime you need to use the restroom. But otherwise, let's go ahead and get going. I'd like to welcome Michael Schwartz is here with us tonight. Michael is the Executive Director and Founder of San Diego County Gun Owners. I like to say he's the godfather. He's the godfather of all the San Bernardino, Riverside, Orange County, and San Diego County gun owners. So glad to have you with us here tonight, Michael.
Thank you, Lauren. I really appreciate it. I guess I made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
There you go.
Work really, really hard, and we'll protect and restore our Second Amendment rights. That's the Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I appreciate it. And thank everybody for joining. Really appreciate it.
Very good. Hey, let's kind of talk about what we are, who we are, and what we do. I think we always have new people, so I think this is always a good place to start. We are a political organization. We're a political action committee that is focused on Second Amendment rights. We do not duplicate efforts of the NRA, the CRPA, Firearms Policy Coalition, or Gun Owners of America or Gun Owners of California. Those are all great organizations. We really encourage everybody to become a member of those organizations. If you're not a member, we don't duplicate efforts. Our mission is to identify and elect Second Amendment active supporters in city, school board, and San Bernardino County offices. It's really important. A lot of people downplay the importance of local politics, but we feel that that's a linchpin in what we do. We have to have windows into the local communities where so many decisions are made, ordinances are passed, decisions are made that really affect where we live and work. And so we really feel it's important to have those windows into those communities. And not only that, but we also want to build bench strength for Second Amendment officials for higher office. So when a state office comes open or a federal position becomes available, we want to be able to have somebody on the bench that we can tap and help and get those people turned over to those other organizations I mentioned earlier and get them to represent our Second Amendment rights. So we have a very important position, and Michael had the foresight to be able to develop this organization, to be able to play that out. How do we do it? We provide four things. We provide Second Amendment advocacy at the city and county level. We meet with local legislators, most local officials, and really work to try and develop Second Amendment education and rights in our communities. Second, we do what we're doing tonight. We do community organizing around the Second Amendment. We want to build a movement. You know, it's not a club, it's not a shooting club, it's a political organization. We want to build a movement. Any type of activism requires that you bring in both people and money, and that's really what San Bernardino County Gun Owners is. We want to do political fundraising to be able to support local officials. Bobby Duncan, as I mentioned, is joining us tonight from Yucaipa. He's a city councilman, been a mayor of Yucaipa. Bobby, welcome very much for coming, and Bobby has just reached out to me just a few days ago. So thank you very much. The way we do all three of these things is we do it through local gun stores, ranges, owners of guns, and trainers to achieve our goals. We can't do it by ourselves. We have to roll up our sleeves and get in it together. And you know, we can't we can't do this without the local gun stores. They are very, very important to our mission. And our gun ranges, if we don't have somewhere to practice or have fun, you know, we're not getting our job done. So, you know, I had a question, and I'd like to just kind of throw it out there. Has anybody been buying any guns lately? Rick, what'd you get?
Is my wife listening?
I like that line. It's the most accurate statement to date. I actually picked up a Mossberg 464 lever action 30-30.
All right, very good. You has anybody been shooting? That's probably even a better question.
That too.
Very good. Hey, you know, I'd like to launch a poll. That's one of the cool things about doing this on Zoom, is we can actually launch a poll and try and get feedback so that we know where you guys shoot. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. And if you're seeing that, why don't you just click on the answers, and it'll give us a feedback instantly. There's 2 questions here. One is what ranges do you usually go to that are open? And we're really looking that you know are open. Click anything, any place that you know that is actually open for shooting right now. And then the second question is, where do you know where there's matches that are currently going on? And if you take just a minute to just answer those questions, and then we'll display the results. Can you guys see the poll?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, one of the areas that I shoot is in Bee Canyon over in Riverside County, so that's not listed on here. It's just
Yeah,
outside.
It is Route 66.
Okay, good question. That's what I'm looking for. If somebody, actually, I know somebody at Route 66, so we'll get a hold of them and get them on our list.
Well, they have changed people there.
Right, I understand it's basically a new range now.
No, even since they started building it out, they've changed controlling people.
Okay, all right.
The organization's up and running, and they're pretty well laid out. They're still finishing range work.
Very good. Very good. We've got a few responses here. Just go ahead and that's where you guys are shooting. Burrow Canyon, Lytle Creek, Apple Valley, West End Gun Club, West Victor Valley, and then Route 66. So we'll make sure we get them added to the list. And it looks like we're having matches at Apple Valley and Lytle Creek and West End, West Victor Valley. So that's good. It's just
I guess Rod and Gun Club are also having matches.
Okay.
And that's, once a month. So that's where I was a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. Well, the good news is we have, things are starting to open up. So next week I'm going to go out and start meeting with gun stores again, and we will start making appointments to go out to matches, and then we'll ask our board members or members to go out and represent us at those ranges and tell them about our mission. But we can't ever take for granted the role that ranges and gun stores provide in our community. We have another special guest with us tonight, and I spoke to him earlier today. Michael Schwartz and I were on a program with him earlier today, but I'd like to introduce to you Phil Naiman. Phil is an active shooter. He's a competitive shooter.
You should never introduce anybody as an active shooter. I think that's wrong.
Well, Philip, I'm going to let you take it from there and tell us a little bit. I've already blown it, so it's only going to be downhill from here.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, folks. My name is Philip Naiman, and I've been blessed with the opportunity to host the Firing Line radio show on AM 590 for the last, almost 8 years now. And the radio program focuses on Second Amendment, hunting, shooting, all the good stuff afforded to us under the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And probably 3 or 4 times now, I've been able to have Lauren on the show, and I think Michael Schwartz has been on twice. And they've been a great addition with their knowledge base about what's going on and trying to get people active locally, which is such an uphill battle. The Second Amendment community, oftentimes I hear it a lot, is, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? It's the old, one finger's pointing this way when 3 fingers are pointing back. And we sit on our laurels a lot, waiting for someone else to come do the heavy lifting, whether it was the NRA or CRPA or these guys. And so I really take my hat off to the guys who are out there doing this work, because I know how many hours are involved behind the scenes for guys like Mike and for Lauren. And everybody else who's affiliated with this. There's tons and tons of hours. And, a lot of guys will tell you how to do it, but they're not out there doing it. So we have a saying on the show. It's GOYA, stands for get off your couch and get in the fight, and it's important that you guys are standing up for our rights. And like Lauren's going to go out to gun stores now. That's a long time standing around waiting for a chance to talk to the owner. And, and the sad thing is, a lot of the gun stores will nod their head and say, yeah. And then they don't push anything. They're too busy or whatever reason. It's a sad phenomenon to see, but that's the way it is. Anyway, how's that for bright and shiny there, Lauren?
There you go. Yeah, and I find that people don't respond. Very rarely do you find people that respond on the first hit. They have to hear it 3-4 times or be exposed to it 3 or 4 times. So it is a job that takes a lot of time. But everybody that's on air with us tonight, everybody's listening to your show, we all have a part to play in being able to make this thing change. And it didn't get this way overnight. It's not going to change back overnight. I'm just curious, Phil, you have a lot of different guests on your show. You want to talk just a little bit about the kinds of guests that you have on your show?
Yeah, actually, that's one of the beauties about this show is I get to pick my guests. So I try and find just different things that interest me. We've had guys on from the SAS and the cowboy action shooting and quick draw, and we've had Kim Rhodes on, and all kinds of different people from different types of shooting disciplines or IDPA. I have Jason Miyashiro. He's a Western Regional Galactic Champion shooter. Just a lot of fun people on. And then I also like to bring out products and sponsors and stuff like that. So, we'll have good quality companies on talking about what they do. So, we just had a week ago, so I had AccuTac, which makes an amazing bipod. They're made here in Rancho Cucamonga. So, we reach out to people like that, or Kelly McMillan, or, Vortex Optics, and try and bring out good gear and techniques in addition to the Second Amendment talk. So it's kind of a mixed bag of fun and duty. How's that?
Very good. Very good. Other than the show you did earlier today, what do you think is the most memorable show that you remember that you did?
I don't remember any other show. I just remember that one.
That's the right answer.
It was so amazing, and they can all hear it Saturday at 1 o'clock on AM 590.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, AM 590, Saturday at 1 o'clock. It's an hour-long show. And we've also made it easy. The shows are now streamed on our website. So if you go to sbgunowners.org and search for Firing Line Radio, it's right on our website. It's very easy to listen to.
Yeah, and my email, which I don't mind putting out there, is firinglineradio@gmail.com. If you have suggestions for a guest or you'd like to be on, get a hold of me. I'm fairly approachable. And the website is firinglineradio.com. So you can get other podcasts or information from the show, but we're pretty active, and we're active on the Facebook platform also, and Instagram. But it's just trying to have a conversation with people, because so often I want to arm the Second Amendment community in conversation. Because I was at a dinner party a year ago, and this person just looked across me at the table and said, "What gives you the right to have an AR-15?" You know, and so it's recognizing we're miles apart in our opinions. How do we bridge that gap without having an argument? And to really understand what is this person's problem. And the person's problem wasn't so much the weapon as it was, I'm really upset about violent crime. Well, that is something we have in common. So, you know, it's learning how to speak to people and have those conversations, because yelling at somebody, you're never going to change their mind, and then they're going to vote for Gavin Newsom anyway. So you really have to talk to them in a way that it's understandable and reach those fears, because the Second Amendment community and the anti-gun community have so much in common, but what they have in common is we don't want any more murders. We understand that our God-given rights to defend ourselves are our best protection. They're not there yet. They're fear-driven. They're afraid of firearms. I talked to an attorney, an estate planning attorney in Riverside, and we're talking about some stuff, and he goes, "Oh, I won't go in a house if there's a gun there." It's like, well, that's an irrational fear. I mean, that's like afraid of snakes or spiders or something. That at least a snake or a spider can chase you, but you know, the guy has an irrational fear. So how do you overcome that? Or do you even approach it at that point? Or you just let that one lie? But I think it's important to have in your quiver or your magazine, since it's a gun show, have the tools you need to discuss things with people rationally and to address their fears, because they are fear-driven. Maybe they've had somebody murdered with a firearm in their life. We don't know, and that's a terrible thing. I tend to blame the murderer. Whatever tool they use is irrelevant. But you know, it's to have the conversation and to find out what they're truly afraid of. And you don't say that by, well, what are you afraid of? But you know, try and find the common ground. It's like, I am very upset over, you know, this murder. It's senseless, and I am absolutely against it, and here's why. And here's what we do to defend against it. And, you know, that's, I think, our best bet is to have those conversations at the dinner parties. You're going to have a really hard time if you just say, well, Second Amendment says this, and then tough, eat it. We're not bringing those people over. And as Lauren said, you know, you want new members, you want to bring people on, and you want to have people who are at the city council meetings understanding what's going on and able to discuss it in a rational manner. So anyway, that's what we try and do, and we try and have a little bit of fun while we're at it.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you said, because you know, a lot of times we think that we're in a fight. We are in a fight for our rights, but really a lot of it is just education. Because people have unfounded fears that really they don't even know why they're afraid. They're just told by the media, or they're being told by some very liberal person that really doesn't understand the issues. They're just being told, and they're following. And just a little bit of education is sometimes all it takes.
Exactly. I have to skedaddle here real quick, but I do want to give you one thing, and that is the person who is trapped by this fear. For instance, my mom. I love her dearly, but from the day she was born, she was anti-gun. All right? Odd, right? So when I was 15 years old, I decided that the best teenage rebellion would be to go get a job at a gun store. And that's what started me down the road of owning firearms. But to this day, she has an irrational fear, and she'll never get over it. You just have to love them anyway, you know, and just talk about the weather.
Well, very good. Hey, thank you very much for coming on, Philip. Really appreciate every time we get together, and soon we'll be able to go out shooting.
Awesome. Hey, I want to thank you guys, and seriously, for what you do, because you're doing the heavy lifting. I'm just yakking about it. So it's thank you so much for all the time and effort and money that you put into this.
Very good. Thanks again, Philip. Thank you. Thank you for
All right,
everything.
guys. God bless.
So we are building a movement, you know. It's almost like we're marching to war, you know, and, you know, if you're going to march off to war, you have to have a game plan, right? And we do have a game plan, you know, and especially in the last couple months, it's been very important. We've had a good digital strategy, and it's been successful. I'm very proud of the fact we're now up to almost 1,000 followers on Facebook now, and this thing just started in January, so we've really grown it. That Facebook page is SB Gun Owners. Our website had 1,444 people visited last month. That's a lot of people, a lot of new people, and we're getting exposure. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but you know, most of the gun buyers that were out there in the last couple months that responded to this crisis were first-time gun buyers, and they need education. They need to have resources so that they learn the right way. We don't want them learning how to use a gun on the street. Mike will talk about this in a little bit. Our YouTube channel, we've got a lot of content now. We've got 46 subscribers on there. I think a lot more visitors, but go to our YouTube channel at San Bernardino County Gun Owners and like it. We're up to 82 members now. We have had a great response in membership, even in spite of the inability to be able to get together and meet. Last month, we had 16 new members join us in April. That's pretty astounding. And, you know, one of the things we did for the month of April is we put together a contest to have a drawing for 5 front site memberships. And so I just happened to have here a San Bernardino County Gun Owners hat that is filled with the names of 16 people. And let's shake it up here in front of live Facebook in the world and just draw 5 random names out here. And then thanks to Mr. Michael Schwartz, you will have a front site membership. Michael, what kind of membership is this?
It's an ambassador level membership, which is basically it's a lifetime membership to Front Sight, which if you're not familiar with Front Sight, they're a school in Nevada that hosts all kinds of different classes, all kinds of different skill levels, pistol, rifle, shotgun. And you can take, with this membership, you can take any class, anytime they have it, as often as you want for the rest of your life. And the only thing you have to do is if you decide to take a class, you have to have had a background check within the last year by them, and it usually costs about $50. And that's it. There's no catch. There's no gotcha, nothing like that. There are a few other benefits that come with the membership, but the big thing is free training for life. So it's very cool. But we'll give you all the, if you win, we'll give you all the details and get you all transferred over and get you indoctrinated into the front sight lifestyle.
Yeah, Michael and I went there just before this COVID crisis hit in the beginning of March. Spent 4 days over there. It's great training. Been going there for years, and it's. They also even have bladed sword training if you want that, or they pretty much the full gamut. But anyway, the very first winner is Mark Averett. Is Mark on with us tonight? We will still send Mark out a membership card. So our second winner is Nick Hill. Is Nick on with us tonight? All right, let's do 3 more here real quick. Corey Quinn? Corey Gwynn. I think I saw him on there. We'll get that out. And I know this person's here, Rick Danzy.
Hey, congratulations.
Very good. It's a great membership. It's better than one I got. And then Albert Rainey. So those are the 5 people. Congratulations. We will get the Michael. Those memberships are done digitally now, right?
Correct. Yep.
So,
what we'll do is we have your email address, so we'll email you instructions. It's just a couple easy steps, and then boom, you have your membership.
yeah, and there's no hook to it. It's phenomenal training. I don't know how the guy does it, but provides outstanding training, and it's an incredible value. So thank you, San Diego County gun owners, for getting us those memberships for that drawing.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Hello, Albert. You are on here. You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you. I've been wanting to get up there.
Very good. You'll love it.
And I extend my thanks as well.
You bet. You're
Thank you.
very welcome. Thank you for your membership. We had the front sight membership contest in April, beginning of May, and we are continuing with another contest, and we're currently in that contest period right now. We're giving away free merchandise. So everybody that's a member will receive a San Bernardino County Gun Owners lapel pin, and then depending on the membership you get, you'll either get a t-shirt, a hat, or a polo shirt. How's that sound? So if you're not a member, please join our ranks. We want supporters. We need members. If we're going to really make a difference in political movement to make a change in our Second Amendment rights, we have to fight, and this is the way we fight. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming up, because the schedule is starting to open up a little bit. We've got an aggressive schedule we've got a CCW seminar on June the 16th. This is free. It's at 7 p.m. It will be on Zoom. We'll talk you through the process to apply and help you with writing your good cause statement. Every Saturday, we post the Firing Line radio show. So that will be available on Facebook. It's also posted on our website. Then at the end of June, we have a monthly meeting. That'll be this meeting. It'll be probably a Zoom meeting. It says Facebook Live, but it will be a Zoom meeting, and we'll be discussing the same sort of things right now. The thing that I'm most excited about is on June the 28th, we've had to delay this several times, but on June the 28th, we are going to have an activist workshop hosted by Michael Schwartz on how to be a Second Amendment activist. And Michael, without stealing any of your thunder, I'd like you to kind of go through what this is all about and why it's important.
Get it right there in front of us.
Absolutely. So the origin was about 10 years ago. A group of folks got together, and it was actually Assemblyman Joel Anderson, who turned into a state senator, and now he's running for county board. And we were trying to figure out what we could do to be more effective. And people, wanted to know, well, what actual activities? I've been told by many, many organizations and folks and leaders, make phone calls, more emails, send letters. And I just thought there's got to be something else. There has to be something else that we can do that's more effective. I just don't know if phone calls, emails, and faxes and email, I just didn't think it was all that effective. So I did a bunch of research and came up with real things, real actual activities that you can do to be effective. And that grew into this seminar that basically I want to put arrows in your quiver. So first thing Monday morning after you go to this seminar, 9 a.m. Monday morning, I want to give you actual things that you can do to be effective. And what I mean by being effective is that I want you to have a positive influence on public policy. I want you to be able to change public policy for the better, do the things it takes to do that, and of course, all in support of the Second Amendment. So we go over everything from how to get a hold of elected officials, and then what kind of questions you ask them once you get a hold of them. How do you raise money for them? How do you gain influence with them? What are some fundraising activities you can do? And then we get into how do you talk to people that disagree with you? We've all seen the talking heads on CNN and on different news programs, and it's like they're not even speaking the same language. One person wants one thing, the other person wants the other, and it's like they have no common ground at all. So what do you do? So we teach you what people base their opinions on, what moral foundations they base their opinion on, how to identify it, and then how to communicate, to make sure that they are convinced. So you don't want to tell them what convinces you. You want to find out what will convince them and then build on that message. So it's really just a beginners to advanced level, how to be an activist, what to actually do, So that's what it's all about. It's about 5 or 6 hours. We're going to talk about some different literature and movies to watch. We're going to talk about a lot of different concepts, some authors, some award-winning messaging foundations, and we're going to make sure that you have the tools you need to be an effective activist. We want you to have a positive effect on public policy.
Yeah, success leaves clues. And, when Philip was on earlier, he was talking about fears people have about guns. A lot of people have fears about getting involved and going out and talking to making phone calls to set up appointments to go out and talk to elected officials. And this, like Michael said, this gives you quivers or arrows to put in your quiver. Very, very good. I'm looking forward to it. I have not been to it, and I am really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we've taught it a number of times. Everybody really likes the content. There's a lot of content. It's a little bit of drinking from a fire hose, but there's a lot of things that you'll walk away with. We have a little handout for everybody to take notes on, and some homework and notes. But I get great reviews, so everybody really enjoys it. Everybody gets something out of it. So I'm looking forward to seeing all you folks come on down and take the class. We have some snacks and drinks, and it'll be fun and educational, and I just think you'll walk away a better activist.
Yeah, and it does require advanced registration, so please register. There's a small charge to cover the cost of the meeting room and the refreshments. It's a whopping $18.75. I don't think that's going to stop anybody, but failure to take it might stop you from going to the gun range. If we don't start making some positive changes, our rights are going to continue to erode. So thank you, Michael. Hey, Michael, do you want to get into some of the nonsense that's going on in Sacramento and kind of talk about some of the bills that are currently facing us in Sacramento?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So as he has listed here, they want to try to penalize FFLs. FFLs have the toughest job in the world. Any of you that are business owners, you know how hard it is to be a business owner in California. It's even harder when your business is selling guns. So gun shop owners in California, of course, get inspected by the ATF like everybody does nationally. But then in California, the California Department of Justice inspects them. And in many cities, the local city or sometimes county will inspect them as well. So it's a triple whammy, and there's zero cooperation. I mean, they really, I'm not afraid to say it's a little bit of a predatory organization that inspects these gun shops. They're really looking to try to put them out of business. So this is just another step to do that. Hey, let's up the fines. Let's try to, financially punish them. for selling guns. So if there's any slip up, any I that's not dotted or T that's not crossed, then here we're going to punish them financially. AB 2532, gun violence restraining order. So what they're doing is expanding the gun violence restraining order program in the state, so that even more people, in this case, it's like you're basically like your therapist, can report you and get a gun violence restraining order. If you're not familiar with what a gun violence restraining order is, it's somebody calling the usually law enforcement, sometimes the city's attorney, sometimes the district attorney, depending on where you live, and basically saying, hey, this person, I think this person is a threat to me, and they have a gun. So rather than doing an investigation to see if this person really is a threat, they take the gun. And then it's on the gun owner. They have to go to court. They have to prove that they are not guilty. It's pretty bad. And basically, when we sit down and talk to, especially down here in San Diego, the city of San Diego, their city attorney is the one that does misdemeanors and processes these gun violence restraining orders, not the DA. And when we sat down and spoke with her, our question was real simple. If someone is committing a crime, law enforcement can already take their gun. So if somebody, steals a car or hits somebody or something like, some kind of crime, then you can take that person's firearm. And I've talked to tons of law enforcement, and they've all said, yeah, we've never had an issue, never had a problem getting a firearm from someone who's committed a crime. So if somebody's committed a crime, you can already take a firearm. And if somebody has not committed a crime, why are we taking their firearm? And she was a deer in headlights, the city attorney. There really hasn't been a legitimate reason expressed to me as to why we need these gun violence restraining orders. And I'm starting to get more and more phone calls from people whose girlfriend or ex-boyfriend they're using these gun violence restraining orders punitively. So as a way to get back at somebody. And it's costing them thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in some cases. It's a problem. It's a big problem, and it's getting much bigger. Let's see. Firearm storage in vehicles. It's basically going to force you to be even more thorough when you store your gun in a vehicle. Leo exemption for off-roster guns. Right now, there's the microstamp law, which there's actually, so there's two microstamping laws or bills being proposed. So for those who don't know what the microstamping law is currently, about 20 years ago, they came up with this safe handgun series of tests. So if you wanted to sell a pistol in California, you had to submit your model. Like if Glock wanted to come out with a new, XYZ model, they had to submit copies of that model to a lab. The lab would do a bunch of tests to make sure that it was manufactured safely. So they wanted to make sure that, if you dropped it, it wouldn't fire, that sort of thing. And part of that bill was, they said, hey, one of the things we want to have is, or part of the law, I should say, one of the things we want to have is we want to have this micro stamp on the firing pin. And every time the firing pin hits the brass, we want it to stamp a serial number on it so that when the brass is ejected at the scene of a crime, we can identify what gun it came from. Which sounds great. That sounds wonderful. All right, well, that'll help, crime fighters solve crime. Wonderful. The problem is the technology simply doesn't exist. So what was written into the law was that the Attorney General of California would have the authority to decide when that technology was available. So back when Kamala Harris was the Attorney General, she just decided it was available. And all the manufacturers, Glock, Smith & Wesson, Springfield, they all came to the state of California and said, hey, we've complied with everything else. Everything you want us to do, we've complied with. How do we comply with this? Where's the technology that we can include in our firearms to to have, so they have a firing pin that has a microstamp. And the state of California said, well, that's not up to us. It's up to you. You have to make it. So what's happened is, if you don't have this microstamping technology, you can't sell your pistol in California. Now, there's a number of pistols that have been grandfathered in, but for example, Glock has, we can only buy Gen 3 Glocks. Just about any other state, I'm not sure on all 49, but just about every other state, you can buy a Generation 5 Glock. But in California, you're stuck on buying a Generation 3 Glock, unless you're law enforcement, which this $26.99 is going to take away that exception for law enforcement. So in all intents and purposes. So what's happened is it's turned into a de facto pistol ban. And one of the gun shop owners down here in San Diego, he told me once, he said, have you ever seen a movie that takes place in Cuba and everybody's driving around in old 1950s Chevys, and because there was an embargo, you couldn't import into Cuba. He said that's what's going on with the pistol industry. So all the technology you can buy in California as far as handguns is 15, 10-year-old, 20-year-old technology, and guns are dropping off that list as they come out with more modern models. So Chu from San Francisco decided that and it sounded reasonable. He tried to make it sound real reasonable and said, hey, look, if we anti-gun people, I don't think he used that term, but that's the gist. If we anti-gun people really want gun manufacturers to comply with this, then here's what we need to do. We need to make it easier so they don't have to have a big, long serial number. They'll have a shorter serial number. And that's going to help them comply. And to make sure that everybody complies, for every pistol that is added onto the roster with this new microstamping technology, we're going to take 3 off the roster. So if Glock comes out with their microstamp Gen 5 and gets it added to the list in California, then 3 other pistols have to come off the roster. The problem with that, and that sounds real reasonable, right? Well, okay, great. Then then what we'll end up with is a whole roster with microstamp firing pins. Sounds real reasonable, right? Well, the problem is it's still impossible. It's still impossible. So it's actually being it's in court. There's a distinct possibility that they're trying to water this bill down to throw off the lawsuit. I don't really think that's the case, but that's my own personal opinion. So that microstamping thing is extremely interesting, though. They're really trying to pull a fast one there, but the reality is the microstamping technology just doesn't work.
Michael, I've heard a theory on this that the microstamping technology doesn't exist, possibly because of financial considerations. And somebody like Bloomberg, for example, could come out with a gun that he could produce, that he could sell, might have to fit in a suitcase rather than in a holster. But that gun, if it could microstamp this one thing, that would take 3 off every time. And if you're familiar with how the roster works, it doesn't just say that it's a Gen 3 Glock 26 that's on the roster. If Glock comes out with a Gen 3 Glock 26 that's powder blue in color, that's a different gun. And so they could come out with all the colors of the rainbow on this one gun that cost an absolute fortune that nobody would buy, and basically decimate the roster even worse. So, I mean, that's pretty, that would be pretty bold of them, and I wouldn't anticipate that somebody like Chu would have that kind of a motivation to do something onerous like that, but I suppose it's possible.
Well, all these are scary, and the more these bills pass, they just chip away. But one thing I want to point out, we talked a lot about Assemblyman Chu from San Francisco. He's yet another guy up in Sacramento who started out locally. And these guys can be stopped far easier at the local level. Somebody could have stopped him from serving at the city level in San Francisco. And San Francisco is a pretty extreme situation, but we're not San Francisco, we're San Bernardino. So there's just no excuse for us to have anybody on any city council who is anti-gun, no matter what their political affiliation is. And if we have nobody in San Bernardino who's anti-gun, then we're not going to have anybody from San Bernardino running for Sacramento who's anti-gun. So, really, it's another example. And once they're up there, once these bills are up there, you put it in red, they're all likely to pass. We have very little ability to influence these bills from passing. I mean, emails and phone calls, and we can go up there and march and whatever. It's just not going to change their mind. The better thing to do, the more effective thing to do, is to nip it in the bud and make sure that these people don't get elected on the local level.
Very good. Thanks for that. It's not good news, but it's important that everybody knows what we're dealing with and how important this fight is to get Second Amendment friendly candidates and elected officials in our local races. So it's really, really important. Hey, Michael, we talked about how many new buyers there have been that have come into the market that have never owned guns before, and we've talked about bounced different ideas about how to serve these people. And you want to talk about the program that you put together that we're launching in June?
Oops, got to take myself off mute. Sure. Okay, so that's the example. So here's what we did. In San Diego alone, there were about 80,000 guns sold in 1 month, and over 60,000 of those were to brand new gun owners, people who had never owned a gun before. And those numbers are pretty similar throughout the country. They're similar in Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange County. They're similar in Oklahoma and Maryland and all over the place. A lot of people who had never owned a gun before bought a new gun. It was something like 85% in a lot of cases. Anyway, so we wanted to reach out to them and give them resources, make sure that they know what they're doing, make sure that they know that they're a part of a community now and that there are resources for them. For example, a lot of people were really surprised when they came to purchase a firearm for the first time that they couldn't just walk out with it. They didn't know that there was a 10-day wait period. And, they, in their perspective, they're in the middle of an emergency. They think the whole world's going to fall apart, that there's going to be civil unrest like there is right now in Minnesota. So they were worried. They wanted to protect themselves right now, not in 10 days. So if these laws that, and they had to go through the background check, they had to do all the things they had to do. So if there are laws that they don't like, if there are things that they don't like, then we want to make sure that they find groups like ours so that they can help get those changed. So here's what we came up with. What we didn't want to do is we didn't want to come up with a training video and put it up on our Facebook page because really all that would do is take business away from some of our members who are the gun shops and instructors and that sort of thing who do training professionally. We didn't want to take their business away. And the other thing it wouldn't do is it wouldn't get outside of our bubble. So I don't know how many brand new gun owners would find that video on our Facebook page. I think it's highly unlikely. So we wanted to figure out how could we be a resource and solve those problems. So we came up with, it's going to be a web page on San Bernardino County Gun Owners website, and we're calling it What the Gun, hashtag What the Gun. And we what you're looking at there is a map of San Bernardino, or I guess it's more Riverside. Inland Empire, and that's actually we're ripping off Bed Bath & Beyond. That's their website, and all those little blue dots are going to be a different class or a gun range or instructor where a brand new gun owner can take a beginning class to learn about firearms. So they'll be able to hover over it and say, oh, it's ABC Guns, and they'll be able to click on it, and they'll see a course description. They'll be able to see which instructor, is teaching it, how much the class is, where it's located, how often is it held. And it's not just going to be a big list of every class that they offer. It's just going to be first-time gun owners. Now, how do we get that in front of brand new gun owners? Well, that's where you come in. We want you to take this list of resources that we've aggregated here and get it in front of, the family member, the coworker, your neighbor. All of us know one person who just bought a firearm for the first time. Find that person, say, hey, welcome to the family, but listen, here's what you got to do. You got to take this first-time gun owner class. They're going to teach you all the basics. They're going to teach you how to use it. I'll help you out. I'll introduce you to the instructor. I'll drive you down and buy you a cup of coffee. Whatever it takes, get them into one of these professional classes so that they get the knowledge that they need to be successful and safe and do everything they can. So that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a web page on the website, and the program's called What the Gun. And we're going to need a lot of help from you to promote it and use this as a tool.
Very good. And also, we need help from you on finding firearms instructors that are offering courses. So far, we've only got about 5 people that have responded that have training courses that are available for new gun owners. I know there's got to be more than that. So if you know a favorite trainer that has a course that would be interested in getting listed on this tool, please have them email me. That's what's going to make this program work, is to get these people brought into the community in the right way. Anybody have any questions about that? Think it's a good idea?
I think it's a
Thumbs
great
up?
idea. Lauren, I'd like to back up to the red flag thing for a few minutes. One of the things, red flag in California has been around for a long time. It's been around a lot longer than people realize. If you were to get a divorce and the attorney filed a restraining order, you automatically lost your guns, and that affected law enforcement also. So that's how long it's been around. It's probably been around about 20 or so more years. And the other thing is the Supreme Court may listen to transportation of firearms after New York, even though New York changed it. They're still talking about listening to the law. So those are a couple of things that we need to look at. Those could change dramatically here in California.
Yeah, Michael mentioned that they keep chipping away at things, and what they've kept doing is they've kept adding like one more type of person that can report you for any type of temporary restraining order. And now they've added psychotherapists into it. So that brings in psychologists. I don't know how they're getting around that, but they're adding those people into it. So they just keep adding. The list is getting longer and longer of the people that can actually report you. And I believe some of the ones I've got is law enforcement, immediate family, employers, and coworkers. And I know that's not a comprehensive list. So it's just one more nail in the coffin.
Yeah, and one of the things that has never been listed is your divorce attorney, because all he has to do is file a restraining order, and it happens automatically. You lose your guns.
Okay.
So that's something that needs to be looked at too somewhere down the line.
Absolutely right, Doug. I hear about it all the time. In fact, there are a lot of gun ranges that offer a service. They'll basically take your guns and babysit them until all the proceedings are over. It's really, and it really, like I said, it's done punitively, and it just has to stop. It's just ridiculous, but you're absolutely right.
Very good. So let's talk about something a little bit more pleasant. Let's talk about CCWs. We're fortunate to be living in a county that it's very easy to get your CCW. And we have a pretty comprehensive video that goes through how to actually construct your good cause statement, how to go through the application, the things you need to be careful about when you're filling out your application. And that's all on our website. So if you go to our website, sbgunowners.org, and click on the CCW link, you'll see the video, you'll see all the resources we've got available there. We've got quite a few things. With the COVID deal, we've had some issues with the Sheriff's Department. Range qualifications have been on hold because they're not doing meetings. That's expected to be released here soon. Renewal classes are now being done by video. So when your renewal comes up, you'll submit your application, and then they will tell you how to complete the video training. It's a 4-hour class, so it's a 4-hour video. But you no longer have to go to the Sheriff's Department to actually do that video. The interviews that were scheduled in April and May they're starting to reschedule those interviews for June the 1st. The Sheriff's Department will contact you on getting you reset up. And they are working on the order in, order out. So the people that were canceled at the beginning of April will be the first ones to be scheduled, and people that have interviews beginning of June may be pushed back a little bit. It's unfortunate, but they're doing the best they can. As I mentioned earlier, the range qualifications are still on hold. They're not doing the range qualifications, and they've also expanded that now that range qualifications, as per a new state law that was introduced last year, have to be done on renewal permits as well. So they are working on that. They are working on some alternative plans, and I am somewhat aware of those plans. I can't really speak to them tonight, but plans are going to be put into place in the month of June, and you're going to like what you hear when they announce it. So when they're ready, they'll announce it. And finally, the office should be opening up soon. They'll notify anybody with expirations so that you can come in and submit your renewal applications. You can submit your initial applications still online. All this is explained. The only thing that's changed a little bit is the time frame. So the sheriff is still very committed to increasing the number of CCWs. I spoke to him yesterday. They're at about 10,500 in the county, and that sounds like a pretty big number. I think it's about the 3rd highest in the state, 4th highest in the state. But as John McMahon says, it's a very small percentage of the 2.1 million people that live in the county. So you know, check out our website. I'm going to see if I can bring this up here for you so you can see what it looks like. And I think what I'll do is I'll give you just a real quick tour of a couple things that are available on our website. You can click here, you can watch the video. It's about 12 minutes long, tells you everything you need to know. Tells you how to construct your good cause statement, everything. Here's a quick reference guide on where you can carry, where you can't. There's a ton of information on our website. Another thing we'll talk about a little bit, I'll go ahead and show you while we've got it on here now. Can you guys see this on the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can see okay, very good. The firing lane radio, we talked about that. That's on there. So you can listen to all the programs. Elections. There's going to be about 400 candidates for San Bernardino County offices, county, city, school board offices. There's a ton of offices. And our mission is to go through and evaluate each of the currently serving candidates and rank them either as a thumbs up, an undecided, or a thumbs down. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of go into the next slide to talk a little bit about the political situation, because we're changing something on the way we're rating. Many of the elected officials, when we sent them the questionnaire to find out what their Second Amendment positions were, they would look at the questions and they would just say, I'm not answering this. And we kind of made the mistake of leaving them in the undecided column because we hadn't heard from them. In the next week, we are going to move all the people that have not responded into the thumbs down column to try and increase some pressure. We don't want to move candidates that are Second Amendment supporters, but trust me, we have sent multiple emails and we've given them fair warning, and we will quickly change them back. I want to bring up a couple things that you can see on this. And you know, we have three different categories: county officials, city council officials, and school board officials. I want to talk just a little bit about, I know one of our candidates that it's in here tonight is from the city of Yucaipa, Bobby Duncan, and you can see he's moved up into the thumbs up category. And when you get ready to vote, you need to make sure that you're voting for somebody that has an endorsement either from us, from NRA, CRPA, but don't vote for somebody if they don't have one of our endorsements. You know, there just isn't the room, you know, to take a chance on somebody that hasn't been endorsed by one of the Second Amendment groups. Michael, you want to comment on anything on that?
No, it's I will say that this is an enormously effective tool as well. One thing that it's always important when you're doing activism to figure out what a person's hot button is, or what's their motivation. What's driving them to act? And I got to tell you, so many politicians, their hot button or their motivation is they either don't want criticism or they do want praise. So when you put it right up there, hey, this is where this person stands. You know, they're a thumbs down, or even, you know, hey, they're undecided, and they start seeing that, hey, that's public, and people, you know, pay attention to that and bring it up to them. Enormously effective. I've seen it work for years. So the more time you spend on this, you know, if you're here at this meeting tonight and you're wondering, well, gee, what can I do to help, or what kind of project can I work on? Reach out to Lauren, because this is an excellent project to work on. The more you work on this, the more thumbs up or thumbs downs that they have on this page, the more effective San Bernardino County gun owners will be.
Yeah. And like we said earlier about that list of bills that were introduced in the state, and it's the same story over and over again. Almost all those people started out on school boards, city councils. They didn't go straight to Sacramento, with rare exception. They started out locally and they moved up. So it's really important. I'm going to go ahead and try and show you this video that we've sent out to all these elected officials so you can see the message we gave to them, and we'll see if you can see it. Hopefully you can see that and hear it.
Hello. San Bernardino County Gun Owners is a nonpartisan political organization focused on Second Amendment issues, but not at the state level. We're focusing on electing officials at the city and county level. We focus on the city
we can hear
councils, the county
can't see
boards,
it.
school boards, and all the boards and councils right here in our neighbor's backyard. We find our allies by both our online questionnaire and our personal conversations.
Let me try one more time. Can you see it now?
Can see it and hear it, yes.
Okay.
Hello. San Bernardino County Gun Owners is a nonpartisan political organization focused on Second Amendment issues, but not at the state or federal level. We're focused on electing officials at the city and county level like you. We focus on the city councils, the county boards, school boards, and all the boards and councils right here in our members' backyard. We find our allies by both our online questionnaire and our personal conversations. For everyone who's already answered us, thank you for your support. We indicated your active support on our website and pledge to help you in your political ambitions. If you have not answered our questionnaire yet, take 3 minutes to answer the questionnaire at www.sbgunowners.org/questionnaire. We include the link in the description below this video. If you have any concerns, tell us what bothers you. We would love to have the opportunity to talk to you. If you choose not to answer, we're going to assume that this means you're not our ally, and we will move you to the thumbs down column on our website, and we will make sure our constituents know. Ultimately, we will find someone to be elected in your place. If you'd like to attend our meetings and talk to all of our members and supporters, let us know and we can make that happen.
Very good. Pretty good. Bobby, what do you think about that? Bobby Duncan? Maybe he left the room.
I'll tell you real quick, the lady who did that, her name is Monique, and she is a police officer. She's about a year out of the academy, and she is an extremely talented shooter, pistol and rifle, and is extremely good in front of the camera. She does a lot of volunteer work, mostly what you just saw here in front of the camera, helping us fight and expand our Second Amendment rights. So I just wanted to put that out there. She's really wonderful.
Great. She does a fantastic job. She's currently redoing our CCW video. It's just got a couple little tweaks we had to make in it. So bottom line is we need all of you. We need everyone to help on this political assault that we have before us to be able to change the position of Second Amendment rights in California. And we're going to ask everyone to help us. We'll keep asking, but just get involved. You know, it's a bold statement that we're making, and we just have to work together to be able to deliver on it. There's some action steps. Are you back to seeing my screen again? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody?
Yep, I can see it, but it's
Okay.
the thumbs up, thumbs down screen.
Okay, great. Very good. So, you know, there's some things we need everybody to do. Number one, we have to build our reach. So it's very important. You see something that you like on social media, make sure you like it. Share it with your friends. And don't pick the friends that you share it with. Be bold. Share it with all your friends. I have a lot of liberal friends, and trust me, I get a ration sometimes when I post things or share things, but you know, it's worth it because you may not reach 8 people, but that one that you do reach with the message that we have, that's where we need to make the difference. And if everybody can reach 1 additional person, 2 additional people, that can really make the difference. So share our social media posts. Second, sign up for our How to Be a Second Amendment Activist seminar. It's a great tool. And Michael, will that work with your wife?
What? Well, you can try it.
I know Laura. She could probably work it on you. Third, if you are a trainer or if you know somebody that offers training, please let us know so we can get them included in our tool. Fourth, get engaged. You got to get engaged or you're going to suffer the consequences. You know, the anti-gun movement is very well organized, very well funded, and if we don't get engaged as a group, as a community, we're gonna end up on the losing side. So everyone get engaged, or you're going to suffer the results. Become committed to a movement, and you know, I think we have to stop thinking about this in normal terms and start think of it as an activist movement. You know, Gandhi didn't change India by changing his own views. He created a movement of millions of people that actually made a tidal wave change in India. And this is the same sort of movement that we have to create here in California. Fifth, let us know if you know any local officials. Like I said, we're expecting to have almost 400 candidates on the ballot in November, just in San Bernardino County. We can't do it without you, and we need your help. If you know somebody, please reach out to them, reach out to me, and make a personal introduction. It will make things a lot easier. Lastly, if you're not a member, become a member. The way that political organizations function and politicians function is based on two things. One is they need people. Second, they need money. You can have a politician that is the best speaker, the best communicator, and has fantastic ideas. And if he doesn't have any money, he's going to be sitting on his couch. Conversely, the same thing is true. So we need you as a member. We need your voice, we need your support, and we will give it to the people that support our community. You know, I'd like to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions, let's go ahead and unmute everybody real quick. If anybody has any questions, please just go ahead and speak out.
You know, Lauren, we're talking about training and stuff. The High Desert Gun Club, Dick Johnson trains people to be safety people, and that might be something we can do too, is get him to give us a class. He also said we can come up there and have a meeting if we want to.
Okay, very good. Very good. Well, I'll make a note of that.
I have a couple
Maybe we
things.
could get everybody together and have a group rate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying maybe
go
people
ahead.
together and have a group rate.
Oh, could he do a group rate?
I don't know. I could probably talk to him, or you could talk to him.
Yeah, no, I know him pretty well. I'll reach out to him. You know, we have a lot of resources available, and that's kind of what we're asking for help, is to identify people with, like Dick Johnson, that have classes, and Dick is one of the people that's responded to the new gun owner training. So we'll find out. So that would be something you'd be interested in, Mike, as a future event, to do like a training event.
That's a great idea.
Very good.
I have a friend that just retired from San Bernardino Police Department, and she teaches CCW courses in Riverside and Orange County. I've contacted her to get a hold of you. I don't know if she has or not, but I'll remind her.
Very good. What's her name, Mike?
Her name is Christine Hall.
Okay. Haven't heard from her yet, but I'll look forward to her call.
Yeah, she's a sergeant she was a sergeant with that department.
Okay.
So I'll let her know and to give you a buzz. The other thing was, I noticed that Janice Rutherford, who is our representative up here, county representative up here on the mountain, is in the undecided. Have you just not heard from her?
Okay, so, you know, Janice Rutherford is kind of an interesting case. She did respond to our survey, and she had about 8 of her responses were that she would actively support 8 of our questions. We asked very detailed questions of all the candidates and elected officials to try not just gauge whether they say they support the Second Amendment, but whether they will actively support us in making changes on that particular issue. And
Right.
Janice, when she responded, 8 of her questions said she would actively support, but she said she could not support assault weapons or magazine bans. Now, Janice, her secretary reached out to me to request a meeting right before the COVID shutdown started. And with her, the response that I got is that I believe she is one of those people that just needs to be educated, because many people outside of our community have no idea what an assault weapon is.
Yeah.
Hey, just to clarify, Lauren, I think you said it backwards. She does support assault weapon bans, and she does support magazine bans.
Correct. Thank you. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So we will be reaching out to her, though, Mike. She is somebody that's on our list to go out and meet with on a one-on-one meeting.
It's a nice truck, buddy.
Okay, I'll contact her as well.
Great, I appreciate that. And do you have my number, Mike?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, great, very good. Yeah, for anybody that wants to get a hold of me, my phone number is 909-499-3295. It's also on our website and on Facebook. It's everywhere. Probably on bathroom walls too.
So I just wanted to say one more thing real quick. If you're walking away from this meeting and you're kind of scratching your head and wondering, well, gee, where do I fit in, or what should I do next? The COVID-19 restrictions make things a little bit interesting right now. It's a little bit restrictive, but stick with us and don't try to boil the ocean. Just take little steps. Come to our events, promote our social media, and reach out to that one or two people who you think need to join. And just say, hey, I just found this organization. I believe in what they're trying to do, and I hope you'll join and help like I'm helping. Because when Lauren talks to elected officials, the first thing they want to know is how many members does Lauren represent? Does he represent 5, or does he represent 500, or does he represent 5,000? If he represents 5, they're not going to give him the time of day. But if he represents 500, they got to make time for him. And when he represents 5,000, well, they got to start doing what he says. So, just take the small steps and reach out to your circle of influence and just let people know, hey, this is what we're trying to do, and I hope you'll be a part of it.
Yeah, that's local elected officials often win elections by a few hundred votes. That's all it takes. I heard a number today that I'd kind of forgotten about. Pete Aguilar won his congressional seat by 300 votes. It's a pretty big congressional district, and he won it by 300 votes. So we're not getting involved in the national scope, but we have a voice, and if we spread the word and share our message, we can make a difference. We say over and over again that together we will win, but we can't do it without you. Anybody have any more questions?
Hey, I just want
Real
to.
quick,
Denise Allen goes by Denise Allen, not Denise Allen Hoyt. And the other thing is she's not running for re-election. Chris Markowitz is going to run in her district.
I'm sorry, who is it?
Chris Markowitz.
Okay, can you put her in contact with me?
Well, Denise isn't going to run. Chris is a male. He's an attorney.
Okay.
You're talking about Chris Markanian.
Or Markanian. I'm sorry there, Rick. Markarian.
Okay.
Chris Markarian. He's the one that's going to run in Denise's district. And I do know for a fact that he's already pro-gun and everything else. So.
Oh, yeah, I can guarantee you he's a personal friend.
Yeah, me too. So.
Okay, great. Very good. I appreciate that. So my understanding is that the people will be able to start submitting their names to be on the ballot on July the 13th. So that's good to know, and I'll put his name on the list to follow up as the candidate for the general.
I'm not sure if Dick Riddell is going to run again. I don't think he is, but I don't know who's running in his district right now unless Bobby knows somebody.
Bobby's not here now.
Yeah, I think he left. But I'll
He's still online, but he isn't physically present.
Yeah, the Bobby did say he had a couple people that he was going to get the message out to get them to respond. So thanks for that. Anything else?
Lauren, just a quick question. Any inkling on how long the virtual meetings will continue? How long before we're able to have a face-to-face meeting?
I really hope that our June meeting will be face-to-face. I don't see any reason we shouldn't be able to, but our last meeting that we had, guys, if you think back, it was in February. And we had 86 people that crammed into Redland Shooting Park that night for a meeting. And it was a great, rousing meeting. And, you know, I think that everybody's dying to get out. So I'm hoping that June 25th. And if we have to limit it, I have no idea what the county's going to do by the end of June, but I'm expecting that it'll be loosened up.
I've seen nothing coming in that indicates they're going to do anything unless the state okays it.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rick. But Newsom seems to be loosening up on the reins as public pressure builds. The guy does not like, you know, I heard something interesting the other day about the governor that kind of made a shift in what he's been doing. And that's that Willie Brown sat down and met with him a couple weeks ago. And Willie Brown told him that he was ruining his political career, taking the action he's doing. And sure enough, a few days after that meeting, things started to loosen up. So we can only hope for that to continue. Very good. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. Look forward to seeing all of you. And we'll be hitting the gun stores, gun ranges here. So maybe I'll see you at a shoot sometime this month. All right. Thanks a lot and have a good night.
We'll see you guys.
And thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Without someone doing something about it, it's not going to get any better.
Right.
Thank you. Good night.